Alright, I'm gonna see if I can get this done here. I tried to get a video out yesterday. I used my makeshift head cam and it didn't turn out at all. The lighting sucked. It just didn't turn out. So I'm gonna redo the video now. And unfortunately, it's already been wired, but I'm going to show you what it is that I've done so that you understand how this little system works. Now, uh, right now I'm using this little motor here. This is from a DeWalt saw that's been ripped apart, and I had a pulley put on it, and that's what's running the alternator. But essentially this is going to represent the treadmill motor for now. There's no difference. It's on the wiring. It's just to represent this circuit. Alright. Or, sorry, this is to represent the treadmill motor. Apologize. Alright, I'm doing this on the fly. There is no scripting or this, that, and the other. So let's see if I can do this without making a big mess of it. Alright, so there's 4 posts here. Let's see if I can see this. I apologize, everybody. So there's 4 posts here, as you can see. And there's 2 posts over here. Now, these 4 posts back here are the power input to the circuit. And how I run that is I run those 4, which is actually 2 positive and 2 negative. And you can twist the wires together. It literally, I did some research and it shows that that's fine as long as your power supply is supplying enough power to the circuit to run the circuit. So here's what I've done. I've taken those 2 positive on the end and the 2 negative over here, and I've wired them into the power that goes into the PWM. The positive and the negative. And then I have a wire that comes out of there, and let's see if we can follow this here, that goes to 2 batteries that are run in series for 24 volt. So I'm coming from the batteries through this cable, trying to get better lighting, I'm sorry, and to the power on the PWM. So then from the power on the PWM to the power on the voltage regulator. Now the 2 posts in the back here are positive, and the 2 posts closest to me are the negative. Now over here, these 2 poles, one being positive, I'm sorry, camera work sucks, one being positive, one being negative, those go to the 2-pin clip. Wow, my camera work sucks. I don't know if you guys can see that. That's better. That 2-pin clip that's sitting that goes into the alternator, that affects the circuit that's in the alternator that supplies the power to the brushes. And what that does is controls the amount of current that comes out of the alternator into your batteries. It's kind of like tricking the circuit that's in the alternator. Now I've done tests with many alternators. This 2-pin 220 amp alternator seems to work perfectly well, and so does a GM T10SI, but you have to do a bit of a conversion on the 10SI. This one you don't, not at all. Alright, now this here is the voltage regulator circuit that applies the power to that 2-pin on the alternator. So what I've done is I take the power from these 2 poles here, as you can see, and it goes around to the 2-pin on the alternator. Now I know what the questions are going to be in the comment section. Which one's red? Which one's black? Well, you know what? I've done tons of experimenting, and I'll be honest with you, I've had it work on both sides. So do some research. I really don't know which one applies. I think they just apply directly to the brushes. I could be wrong. I'm only showing you what I'm doing and what works. If you can explain it better, then please do. I'm no professional. I'm just a guy who works in his basement because, well, it's necessary now. Alright, so here we got PWM, and we got a voltage regulator. And as I've shown you, the power from the voltage regulator, I just tap directly into the PWM, and then the power from the PWM goes directly to these two batteries in series, which represent 24 volts. Then the power from, or the motor control from the PWM just goes directly to your treadmill. Now, of course, this isn't a treadmill, but you get the point. Alright, so that's the wiring of the circuit. You're going to get something like this, which is the control to the circuit. I don't use any more than 3 volts, but I usually start at 2 volt input, 1 amp, and then I turn up the voltage depending on how much amps I want going into my battery. You'll play with it, you'll get the idea. I'll do a demonstration shortly. It's just that this is really loud and you're not going to hear a word I say. And I don't have the wattage meter hooked up, which I'll do for the demonstration. Alright, I hope that's sufficient enough for the wiring. If it's not, please tell me and I will unwire it and wire it back up so that people can see me do it. But this is as plain as I can get without wiring it for you on live camera, because I'm one-handed. My so-called headlamp didn't work that well. Alright, the other point I wanted to make is the gauge wire. I've gone, honestly, this wire here is the electric cord off the back of a stereo, because you're not pulling more than 1 amp, 3 volts. You don't need, you could use speaker cable for that matter. And the power from the battery, now that should be a thicker gauge. I'm not even sure what this is. I pulled it out of a old, wow, I'm not even sure what I pulled that out of. I salvage all kinds of wire, so I apologize. You might want to do a little bit of research, but you're not pulling very much power at all. I use 250 watts to run this thing. So do your research, but that's where it's all at. Alright, thank you very much.